art of retail. And so even the speakers that we've selected are, specific to this topic. The art of retail, getting your product to market. I'm sure this is something that everyone here is very interested in. You have a product. How do you, get your product to the market in the hands of the people who need them? All right, so it's a conversation with Tara Fela-Durotoye. We all know House of Tara and how they have different branches all over. We also have Mark Stevenson is back. And then, of course, we have Chekwas Okafor. And this subject and this topic really is about gaining brand visibility. So your questions have to also be specific to this. So gaining brand visibility begins with understanding the consumer and how to reach them. This requires tailoring channel strategy approaches, not only to the consumer, but also to the brand image you seek to create. In this conversation, Tara Fela-Durotoye, founder of House of Tara International, Mark Stevenson, managing director of Sandstorm Kenya, and Chekwas Okafor, founder Onchek. All right, so I'm going to be introducing them. Okay, I'm going to be introducing them and then get your questions ready. And I'm sure it's going to be an exciting conversation. So, of course, first and foremost, we have Tara Fela-Durotoye, Nigerian-born lawyer turned Africa's leading beauty and makeup entrepreneur. She started House of Tara at the age of 20 from her living room while she was an undergraduate at university back in 1998. She launched Nigeria's first ever bridal directory in 1999. And in 2004, she opened the country's leading beauty academy. Today, Tara has over 3,000 reps spread across Nigeria and 14 stores to her name, and she's steadfastly dedicated to realizing her vision of building a globally respected beauty company of African origin. Tara remains an inspirational role model and mentor to makeup artists and aspiring beauty business owners across Africa. In 2013, Tara was nominated as a Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum and was also named one of Forbes' 20 Young Power African Women. Can you please give her a warm round of applause as she comes up? Tara Fela-Durotoye. Okay. Welcome. Thank you. Yes, you can. The guys are, okay, maybe the girls should. Okay, fine. So the men can surround you. All right, on this panel, we also have Chekwas Okafor, founder of Onchek, a company that operates Onchek.com, an e-commerce retailer for African luxury fashion, and Merok, a T-shirt manufacturing company. He's working on powering Made in Africa by building a fashion supply chain infrastructure from manufacturing to retail. Please welcome with me Chekwas Okafor. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. You're welcome. Okay, we had Mark Stevenson yesterday and we're having him back again today. I'm sure everyone who was here had a fantastic time with him. I'm just going to pull up his profile real quickly. Why is it not here? Okay. All right, so for those who were not here yesterday, Mark Stevenson is the managing director of Sandstorm Kenya, a luxury bag manufacturer headquartered in Nairobi, with 7 stores in Kenya and Tanzania, as well as online. The company's handcrafted canvas and leather bags, including travel, duffel, totes, and laptop bags, are aimed at the top end of the market. Originally from the UK, the former advertising professional invested in Sandstorm in 2007 and relocated to Kenya the following year. His ambition is to build the company into a world-class Kenyan brand. Please once again welcome Mark Stevenson. Thank you so much. It is good to be here with you. All right, so I guess we wanted to start. I'm sure a lot of people may know, what we're talking about already. We're talking about retail. We're talking about how to get your products to the people out there. So I guess I'd like to start with Tara now to talk to us about the basics for those who maybe may not have a great idea about retail, for example. Where do they start from?
Hello, everyone. And well done to all of you, because doing business in Nigeria is a lot of hard work. So give yourselves a round of applause for trying. No, it's not good enough. Better. Woo! Clap more. Okay, clap for the person beside you. Woo! Then you can clap for me for doing 21 years. Okay, so what's retail? When you think about retailing, many times it's really about distribution. So you have a product, you have a service, it's a great product, but if it doesn't get to the hand of the consumer, to your targeted audience, it's a waste of your time. And when we think about retail, it's really about getting the right product at the right time, to the right place, at the right price. So right place, right price, right time. But it has to be to that audience. And in Nigeria, when you think about retail international, you think about malls, retail stores. We don't have that infrastructure in Nigeria because we do not have a strong retail infrastructure across the country. And they're many times also too expensive for many of us. And that's why we have the sometimes modern retail, which you find in your Spar, your Hub Mart, the big supermarkets. But what is big in terms of retail is the open markets. Your Balogun, your trade fair, your Aba markets. That's where most of the people are buying from. So the question you want to ask yourself is my product available where people can actually buy? And because we don't have a retail infrastructure in Nigeria, many of us have ended up converting residential homes. House of Tara is one of the culprits, to retail stores. We've had to learn to be innovative and to be creative as to how. There are other countries like in Kenya where you have many malls across the country where you can retail through. And the pricing of many of those stores are so expensive for many of us. As I'm looking out here now, I don't know how many of us can actually put our products in those stores. So we need to have a conversation around what is really possible. Now they're going to be charging us more online, but I think that's where we have to stay because many of the people who I'm seeing here are also very young. So this is some of the things that we have to be discussing in this conversation. When you're thinking of retail, you have to think about stock management, you have to think about general management, you have to think about sales policies, you have to think about customer experience. And a lot of times, stock management is a big deal. And we don't have enough training to teach us how do we know when we have the right stock? How do we know how long the stock is going to sit on the shelf for? These are some of the things that we need to also start to think about. Stock management is really about buying, selling, making sure that you have the right products available when the customer needs it. Customer experience is something we're very bad at, and we need to learn. Am I correct?
Yes.
And am I correct?
Absolutely.
It's a whole seminar
Yes.
on customer experience, and I think that's one of the things that we need to focus on. Maintenance. We don't have a good maintenance culture in Nigeria. If you're going to go into retail, you have to think it's not just how to manage your stock, but how do you maintain that if that store you're going to open is always nice and there's a nice customer experience just based on how nice the store
looks
and how the staff, including you, are managing it. This is my own...
An overview.
Thank
you very much, Tara.
I hope it was useful.
Yes. It was useful, right? Yes. All right, so Chekwas, I wanted to ask you real quickly before I pass the mic to the audience, how you bridge that gap from I have a product.
Cool. So make point. So obviously we live online, which is exactly what she's saying. It's pretty difficult for brands on a continent, Nigeria, and most of African countries to kind of access retail. So online has been a place where it makes it easier. There's a lower barrier of entry. So we went into that to kind of make African luxury easily accessible. So we stock these brands. We order from the brands here and then sell it online. And most of our customers are people who've been interested in African brands. They never really found the distribution or access or the cost. There was no, people sold through Instagram, so they didn't really know how much it was. They'll say, DM me for pricing. So we've kind of made that a little easier for people to access. So that's how it's been incredibly helpful. And to the retail part, just like any other retailer, stock management and predicting what your customers want. So we're constantly learning what our customers are interested in or what we think they'll like. Sometimes we do a very good job at it. Sometimes we do a really bad job at it, but we just kind of learn and keep going. So it's basically the same challenges, but we live online, so it makes it easier to manage, but it still doesn't make it, it doesn't go away.
Wow, fantastic. And Mark, what are the hacks that you have with regards retail?
There we go. As well as building our own retail business, I've spent some time sort of mentoring younger brands, new brands in our category and in fashion. And I think that, that there's one thing that I ask them to do whenever I start having a conversation about, certainly about physical retail, because I think some good points have been made about the cost of retail. That running a shop, it can be really expensive. And if you're making a product, or actually even if you're buying from somebody else, you need to kind of almost establish an internal wholesale price, a price at which you know that you could sell to somebody else, or you can take it and then sell it yourselves, and then that leaves you with a margin through to your retail. And because many brands are constrained, there's a limit as to how much product they can make within a particular period of time. The best thing that you can do if you're thinking about a physical retail space is look at the cost that it's going to take you to run it. So what's the term of the lease, so therefore what's the risk? What's the cost of that? What's the cost of staff and all of the associated costs? Add all of that up, then look at the margin that you're making on your product and divide the two together. And that tells you how many products you need to sell in a month. And what a lot of people find, certainly young businesses find, is, well, actually, I don't know if I could sell that many in a month, but to be honest, I can't even make that many in a month. So it's just a great way of just doing a quick sort of sense check. And often it's about sort of taking baby steps and doing sort of pop-ups or trunk shows and finding more and more people, more and more organizations are finding ways of, kind of flexible routes to market for physical retail. And I do think that online obviously is, I mean, high streets in many markets are dying because online is taking over. But nevertheless, and I touched on this yesterday, with a handcrafted product, it's really, really important that you tell your story. And often the easiest way of doing that is to allow people to physically appreciate and experience your product. So with many of these things, as with all of these things, it's about finding a balance. But ultimately, the numbers speak for themselves. Can you actually make enough product? And then ask yourself the question, well, if I can make enough, can I sell enough? And then you can start to sort of go on to that journey in terms of the sort of level of risk that you're exposing yourselves to as a young company.
Right. Thank you very much, Mark. All right, so who's got the mic and who's going to ask our very first question during this conversation? Who wants to go first? Okay. Please tell us your name if you... Oh, okay. Do we have someone there? Okay. Oh, no questions yet. This is odd. This is the first time we're going to have a silent room. So we're talking about retail. So what are the struggles that you have? What are the issues you have with getting some of your products? A lot of people here have products, but they're not in the hands of the people who need them. So what are your questions? What are the struggles that you have? You'd love Mark or Chekwas or Tara to answer with regards to this. Okay, we've got someone there, finally. Thank you very much for belling the cat.
You can stay there.
Sugar. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
So we hear a lot. My name is Taiwo. We hear a lot about how the world is moving, online, and how maybe in a few years, physical markets, may die out. I wanted to know, in terms of the traditional sense of retail, can the same principles that operate with, the supply, the normal traditional retail, can it be applied, or how can it be applied to, online markets? I know that small businesses, especially that young people start, the first thing is how can I sell on maybe Instagram or where people are, or WhatsApp. I know that now WhatsApp is even becoming the hub for selling. How can you take traditional retail principles and apply it to, the regular social media that most young people use, nowadays?
Fantastic. Okay.
I can try.
Yeah.
We're still really trying to do the same thing, right? We just moved from physical to online. For example, when you walk into a store, that's the physical part. What's the experience like? Do we think about customers? Do we think about customer experience? Do we follow up with customers after they purchase? Do we actually build for our customers, or are we building for ourselves? So all those underlying principles about why you want this person walking past your shop to come in, it's basically the same thing when we're trying to do it online. So it's just going to be sometimes it's a little harder. So what we do, because we don't have that physical experience, is we go above and beyond. So for example, we do very good packaging, and when customers receive their product, we follow up with them, we call, we write an email, we write a text, we write a note. To sort of just, all we're trying to do is try to replicate that as much as possible. Physical is always still different because we're social animals. We still like talking to people, but as close enough as we can get it, that's good. So if you think about how can my customer come back to me, that's the same principle with physical, and we can just do it online by going the extra mile to make sure your customer remembers you. So that's basically what we try to do. It's still a little challenging, but we're doing relatively a good job at it.
I'd just like to add that I think that, and I have to say that we haven't done this yet, but we're going to. Because it's always, because none of this is easy. And so kind of sort of don't think that everybody else kind of has the answers. I think, so in terms of where we failed, but where we think we can succeed, is that I think that spontaneity of content is important. And what I mean by spontaneity is not, if you understand what your product is and what you're selling, if everything has to be a kind of very glossy lookbook, kind of nothing ever gets out of the door. And I think that when it comes to things like Instagram stories and perhaps linking those through to blog posts, content can be a lot more spontaneous, and as a consequence can be kind of rougher around the edges, if you like. It doesn't have to have spectacular production values. But what it does need to be is it does need to be complete. It needs to give you an understanding of the product. The other point I'd make is that the more that when you walk into a physical shop, you're not looking at a product and going, right, I'm going to take that. You're interacting with a person. So, as Chekwas was saying, the way that you kind of craft emails and the way that you interact is really important. But one of the things that we're going to be trying also is just simple YouTube videos, or simple videos that could be posted on YouTube or through our blogs. So we'll be doing reviews of our product in-house, so that they can see us interacting and talking about our product as human beings, and give people the opportunity to understand, also kind of create a sense of scale, because sometimes with bags, unless you've got a Coke can or something sitting next to it, you've got no idea kind of how big it is. Will it fit my phone? Will it fit my tablet? Can I put pens in there? Where's my makeup going? All of those things, all of those kind of questions, you can anticipate and answer through simple video shot on a phone. You don't have to have really, really expensive kit. But the most important thing is that, the great thing about a physical store is you go there one day and then, fingers crossed, you can go back next week if you've got a problem with your product and you can talk to the people. A website just often, trust is such an important thing. So how do you create that connection with your consumers? How do you create more of a personal relationship and a conversation?
All right. Okay, I wanted to, does anyone else have okay, we've got someone there. Okay, before I go to my question. Let's take, great. Okay. Do we have the mic passed to the, or no?
Okay, all right. My name is Olalikon, and my question goes to all three. Okay. I mean, sometimes selling the product is not the issue, especially in Nigeria. One of the major issues that we go through is getting the product to the consumer. How have you been able to deal with logistics? I mean, I want to really start with Ms. Tara there. Okay. Building the business over the years, how were you able to? Because I know sometimes you have to, invest into having a fleet of probably bikers and all of that. But for small businesses that can't afford all of that, what advice would you give to them in getting, their product to the consumers? And in cases where the product is not, or the consumer is not contented with the product, so how do you also deal with return policy? Knowing fully well that once a consumer returns a product, it's also part of your cost to deal with that issue, getting the right product to, to the consumer. So how have you been able to deal with these issues? Thank you.
I think it's two questions, one around logistics and two, how do you get the product? So for us, like I said earlier on, the retail infrastructure, modern retail infrastructure, it doesn't really exist in Nigeria. And when it does, it's actually too expensive. So we had to create what we call a multi-channel approach. And so we started with, first of all, having our first makeup studio, which was our own first store. It wasn't in a mall. We rented a place in Victoria Island, the boys' quarters of a building. So you know that the price is definitely much cheaper. We did a good design in terms of a window display and made it easy for customers to be able to come to the back without feeling like we're not part of the store. But it was a creative, and this is the thing about doing business in Nigeria, you have to be creative, especially when you don't have the capital. That was the first distribution channel, having our own retail store. But the second thing also we realized was our one retail store was not enough to reach the whole of Nigeria. And so we went into university campuses and began to train young ladies to understand how to sell makeup, and created a business model that was a direct selling business model. So these ladies had a little capital. They came and bought Tara products, and they started to resell. And they were going into offices to get the product in. So we were not distributing per se, so we didn't need to invest in fleets of motorcycles to carry the products from one place to the other. We handed them over to our beauty, we called them at that time beauty reps. And many of them were young, many of them were looking for a side hustle. And you know, Nigeria, we like side hustle, right? And they were on campuses, but they now started this business. We gave them 50% discount on the products, on the retail price, so they could make that kind of money on it. And we focused a lot on training them so that they could present our products well. But many of them, as they graduated from university, they went on to do NYSC. And when they're doing NYSC, they're going to a different part of Nigeria. So if they were selling to somebody in Bank PHB in Victoria Island, after a while, the woman can't find them anymore. So we started to lose some of those customers. And the customers were saying, we know your product, but we don't know where to get it. And then we started to move into the open market. So we went into Balogun and looked for some of the big importers of cosmetics. We tried to sell to them the idea of retailing our products in the open market, because majority of the women were going to the open market to buy different things. And so to have Tara in the open market became wise. But we were now open to counterfeiting. I'm sure many of you heard about the campaign where our products were counterfeited. It was counterfeited after we went into the open market. That's the risk that you face when you go into open market. But going to open market, there were still those bankers who didn't have time to go to the open markets. And so we now went into, at this time, we started to have the pharmacies who were now becoming pharmacy chains, the likes of MedPlus, of Health Plus. And after a while, Health Plus now expanded to having their own beauty chain called Casabella. And so we're able to start retailing through Health Plus, MedPlus, Casabella. And then many of the supermarkets also started to expand, both the Nigerian-owned supermarkets and the international, like your Pack and Shop. So today we're in Hub Mart, we're in all the Ebanos stores from Ikeja to Niru. And still, we have our Instagram and our website. But that constitutes a small percentage of how our products are meeting our customers, but majorly through our own retail stores. Now we have almost 30 retail stores across the country, Kaduna, Kano. In Lagos, we have 8 stores in Lagos. We have Port Harcourt, Enugu, Uyo, Asaba, Benin, Ibadan, Ilorin, just so that we can have that reach in terms of both our physical stores and then having our beauty reps. This is the model that we have adopted to be able to reach our consumers.
All right, check this.
So I'll answer this in 2 ways. So we're a retailer, and we also have a new brand that we make round neck T-shirts. So as a retailer, we're based in New York, so we're lucky to have, like a stable, mature logistics system. So we just ship through USPS or we ship through DHL. So that sort of doesn't answer your question, but that's sort of like I'm not the best person to answer that particular question. But when it comes to our new brand, Merrock's Around Neck T-shirt company, we just focused on the open market. We went straight to the market. We consciously didn't do online because it's a bulk business, so we only go through distributors. We actually don't sell directly to consumers. And it was a conscious decision, even when we started it, that we didn't want to face consumers because we were going to face the same logistics problem. So we just bypassed the middleman and went straight to the distributors. And so that's how we just delivered to them, and they, our products are in Kano, different places we've never seen before. They actually call us to reorder, and we're like, we don't really, we've never really shipped there before, and it's basically because we had distributors. So it just depends on your product and the customers you're targeting. Now, a couple products, if you're a luxury brand, then you probably won't just go into the open market. So that also, adds cost to operation. That probably, that's why, luxury products are a little more expensive because you can't just go to the open market. That presents its own challenges, and obviously that reflects in the price. But as a retailer in New York, we don't have the logistics problem. Although shipping something from anywhere on a continent to New York is kind of expensive, but we knew about it before going in. And then secondly, as the brand, we decided because of logistics and some other factors to go directly to distributors who do all that work for us.
I'd like to add to that. We now have, I think in Lagos, we have Max NG, OPay. These are all more formal Okada systems, right? These are the same Okada. It's the Okada model, but a more sophisticated Okada model. So we're having more educated people who are running. And my counsel would be to engage such brands, GIG as well, because now they're thinking about, I was on a panel with the chairman of GIG on Tuesday, and he was talking about how they're now focusing on business to business. And they call us merchants, and so social merchants. And social merchants basically are small business owners who are trying to get their products to people. But guess what? They have like 25 terminals, bus routes across the country. That's their responsibility to get your products there. Just make sure you sign a good NDA, a good service level agreement, where for us, I think we recently, or maybe a few months ago, a bus caught fire on the way to maybe Kano or so, and they lost everything. But because we already have an agreement with them, they were responsible for paying for that stock. And many small businesses don't think about these things, and so that's one of the things you have to think about. But within Nigeria, within Lagos, if we start to engage OPay and Max, NG, and all these other brands that are coming up, or GoKada, I'm sure we'll be able to. Recently, they said if you download the app, anywhere you are transporting to is 200 naira.
August, I think it's expired.
That's passed. Let's negotiate, right? I think that's one of the things that we have to think about doing.
Okay, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, just briefly, I think one of the things that makes doing a business, I would imagine, in Nigeria exciting, along with Kenya, is that there are a lot of owner-operated businesses that are looking to find ways of getting their products to their customer, to market, which is why we're seeing such great examples of innovation in so many markets, which is brilliant. And so it's kind of about keeping an eye out for those. I think the other thing is that it's getting something to your customer is your problem, not your customer's problem. And depending on the price point of your product, the more expensive it becomes, the more that trust becomes a bigger issue, and the more it becomes important that it feels effortless for them to buy and effortless for them to send it back. And you've kind of got to find, if you want to generate sales, and sometimes the trust that you place in your customer is going to be abused. And you've kind of got to take that on the chin and sort of build that into your margin, so you're managing that risk. But because the internet is such a small place, it's such a vast place, reviews and reputation are absolutely fundamental. So that, personally, just from a physical retail standpoint, actually, and online, we actually create more opportunities to build brand reputation when somebody has a bad experience than when they have a good one. Because how you handle a bad experience and turn that into a brilliant experience in terms of the way that you respond is actually a great, I mean, it can be a bit terrifying, but it also is a great way of building your brand. I wouldn't recommend it as a strategy. It's just about how you solve stuff. Don't plan to make mistakes all the time. But if somebody buys something and has a great experience, they don't really tell people about it. But if they have a not so good experience and you solve it really, really fast and really well, and you're just amazing, everybody will tell their friends. And that's something that's worth thinking about. But it's about taking ownership of the problem, building trust.
Okay, thank you all very much. Let's move on to our next question. Okay. Would anybody else like to ask? Okay.
My name is Adeyinka. Most times, I know there's something about they call in marketing, market segmentation. And that's a really big issue I always have. And the thing is, how do you determine the kind of audience you want? Because in this leather market where we find ourselves, we do some things that some of them might be luxurious, like making a shoe. It can have some luxury with it. And you can also do the same shoes at a much lesser quality to suit the customer's price. So now the thing is, as a startup company that you're just getting into the market, from your experience, what kind of audience will you advise that we should pay attention to? The audience with the higher income, or the audience with the lower income, or could we mix both of them together? Is that advisable? Thank you.
So I'll give that a shot. We have two businesses, right? One is the luxury, and one is just a mass market. It depends, but we are local, right here. And if you think about it, this is just I don't like giving advice, but if I were to do that, we have a lot more. We have a lot less really rich people and a lot more not really rich people, right? So if you really want to get scale, and you can actually use that to power the luxury aspect, because the luxury is a long-term thing. You might make 10 shoes, really high margins, and you probably will sell. But if you have a less expensive shoe and sell it 100 of them before the other, we can turn that money around a lot more time. So being in Nigeria, I think it will be a better bet to kind of go for the mass market, and that obviously removes a whole lot of challenge of logistics, and if you realize it, a lot of what we wear here locally are either imported or somehow imported, right? Unless they're the really good shoes, or because now we're getting better at having a good leather. But a lot of people don't buy those 20,000 naira shoes or 40,000 naira shoes. A lot of people buy 1,500 naira shoes or 2,000 or 5,000. If you can be faster, better, and cheaper than the Chinese or the Indians or the Europeans that import this, then you have a really huge opportunity, because then you have scale opportunity, which is what we're doing with the round neck T-shirts. So we're already faster, better, and cheaper than the imports, and we're already displacing the different importers, and we're actually converting, just like she said, the importers from China, we're converting them to just sort of like get it from us right here, and it's working. So being in Nigeria, I think for you if you want to get scale, I think you can give that a shot, more going for the mass market over the luxury, for at least for a start.
All right. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if we start with the premise that that this initially is a product that you'd want to sell in Nigeria, that's made in Nigeria, I think everything starts with constraints. So it starts with your ability to produce rather than your ability to sell, because there are many, many things you could sell to many people. But if you could well find an amazing high-end sort of market segment, but can you deliver a product? But in order to sell at a premium price, you're going to compete with international brands, because everybody with lots and lots of money wants to buy Gucci and Prada, and you're taking on brands that are, that have got massively valuable and have incredible heritage. So is your product really that astonishing? And if it is that astonishing, then brilliant, because you've got an amazing point of difference because next to nobody is doing it. But I guess that actually it's going to be really, really hard to hit that level. So it's what level can you hit in terms of quality, what price point can you hit, and then sort of working the maths back from there. So I always sort of think about, because running a factory myself, which is really, really hard, and I'd encourage nobody to do it. But if you can do it, then that's great. It is about kind of just working out what you're good at, and then marrying what you're able to produce with what's in the market. And because you can kind of get you can disappear down a sort of segmentation sort of rabbit hole, and kind of end up coming up at a point where you go, well, this is the opportunity, but actually, well, can I actually deliver a product that meets that opportunity? And then it kind of circles back around again. So it's about finding a balance. It's finding a sort of an equilibrium, I suppose.
Yeah. I'd like to know what you think, Tara.
I don't want to sound like a doomsday lord. Forget luxury. Forget luxury. That's one. Two, unfortunately, I would have said focus on the middle market. But everyone is going to Canada. So what do we say?
Doom, doom.
But that's the truth. I would have said, let's not try and compete with, I wouldn't even say compete with China and India. I would say compete with our brothers in Aba, who have been doing leather for many, many years, right? Am I correct? They've been doing leather. This is not new. Many of them have been producing and manufacturing for many, many years, but they're all over. They have their distribution channel from Gabon to Gambia and they're buying. People are coming into Nigeria buying and taking out. And the question is, do you have the capacity to compete with our brothers in Aba? And I'm not sure. So I would have said, let's identify what we can do around the mid-market, right? People who want good quality shoes, and you have good quality shoes, identify the gaps that exist with our mass market brothers, and then up it a little bit more, and also be able to charge more. But unfortunately, that market is shrinking by the day because everyone is moving to Australia and Canada. So I will go back to, we have to pray.
Okay. All right. One word that's been ringing through, I know a lot, is collaboration. I don't know how that can come in. You said something about that yesterday as well. So how can collaboration come in with retail to help, especially people who are just coming up? So that it feels like everyone's doing all of the work when you can just maybe collaborate on certain things. So how would you say collaboration can come in to help the younger entrepreneurs?
It definitely does help, and we've done a couple of those collaborations. Last year, we collaborated with Orange Culture and Shem Paranelli. He probably spoke or he's speaking today. Just because we can leverage each other, right? We were already in New York, and we already had our customers, and we collaborated with people, brands that we absolutely loved, and we gained people that already followed them. So of course, it always helps. You just have to figure out, does it fit your budget? Does it fit your customers? Because our customers trust us because we're retailers. If we tell them this brand is great, it better be great because they've trusted us with their money and their time and their resources. So finding that best collaboration it's another tangible part. But I am pro collaboration, absolutely, and I've done a couple of those, and we'll do more.
We've collaborated on a few projects, and we'll collaborate on more. The way that we start is that we look for products that we love made by people we like. If you don't tick both of those boxes, then we can't work with you. I've kind of got a strict I have to work with people I like, and I have to love the product. And because we've got physical distribution, then we can bring other brands into our shops as pop-ups, and then match that with collaborations which often take some of their intellectual property, so like prints, and then we can apply those to bags, and then that becomes a product that is born of both Sandstorm and our collaboration partner. We're currently doing that with a brand called Endo Squared, who are sisters, Kenyan, Japanese sisters, Patty and Yvonne Endo, and Patty's an artist. And that can work really well. Something that works well in Nairobi at the moment, and I'm not sure how people spend their Sundays apart from coming and listening to us, but with pop-up markets. So where brands that can't afford their own physical retail, and also because trust and online is sort of early days, there are quite a lot of people who are creating pop-up markets and bringing different brands together across different categories, but equivalent kind of price points and quality levels. And then I'm probably throwing some alcohol into the mix as well, and some music and things, so that people can come and have a great Sunday and buy some lovely things. And I'm not sure if those happen in Lagos, but that's certainly a model that's working really, really well in Nairobi at the moment.
I like the idea of pop-ups, but the challenge is people don't come as many. Many people don't come as they should. And that's because many of the owners of the brands are not doing enough in terms of pulling in their own audience. And that's the difficulty. So you decide to go into a collaboration with other brands. At the end of the day, only one person is pushing for people to come in. And if you're going to go into any pop-up arrangement with anyone, everyone needs to commit. They need to almost literally, one person needs to be responsible for gathering the data of the people who you're going to be inviting. How many people are you going to bring before you can come into? So it's not just paying for the stall, it's also, and this is, I think, an idea that I think anyone here can decide that they want to be involved in, which is, I'm going to be putting together smaller pop-ups, maybe once every 2 months, so that for those of us who don't have stores, we can sell, right? The only challenge is you put that stall together and there are 15 of you, but then only one person is pushing it on Instagram. Only one person. Instagram is not enough. You need to literally have a list of people who you're going to call on the phone to say, I have a pop-up in this place. I want to know whether you will come, right? And then say, I'm bringing a minimum of 100 people. And to get a minimum of 100 people, you need to reach 200 people. You have to sit down and call 20 people a day for the next 10 days and get them to say, I'll come. If 100 people say they're coming, maybe about 60 will actually come because they've committed. But that is the real challenge with the pop-ups. It's a great idea, but at the end of the day, you go into the place and you don't see as many people as you should see because many of us are not pulling our weight in terms of just sitting down waiting. Pop-ups won't work that way. You have to spend the time to drag the people out of their houses on a Sunday afternoon. You know, we all go to church.
Sorry, one small point, which I think relates to, and this was an example from almost pre-Instagram days, but it was somebody who was an influencer who was running a very successful blog, and they talked, and they said, they basically set this blog up 6 years ago, and it was doing phenomenally well. And somebody asked a question at a sort of session like this, and said, well, so what's the secret to kind of building a successful blog? And he said, start 6 years ago. And I think that's a really important point, which is things have to be sustained. Sandstorm lost a lot of money for a long period of time, and I had to go out and I had to find investors and so on. It was not an overnight success. It was really, really hard. And it's about perseverance, and it's about believing in what you're doing, and it's about sticking with it. And if you run, say, a pop-up market, well, the first one, the second one, the third one may not work. It may cost you money, but nothing is an overnight success. And you have to sustain effort over a period of time in order to build loyalty, in order to build relationships, in order to get people through the door.
Absolutely. All right, I think we have one question up front here. Can we bring the mic forward? Just over here, all the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. This has been a very informative panel. My question is to Tara. You mentioned a lack of retail. That's surprising to me because I live in Lekki and there's retail space all over the place. What sort of retail, what class of retail are you thinking this?
So Lekki is developing, but that's an abnormally. You can't go to Edo State and see that. You can't go to Abraka and see that. Neither can you go to Enugu and see that. You only have one big mall in Enugu, which is the Polo Park Mall, and it's very expensive. So of course we have that really high-end malls, and then we have the type that you're seeing in Lekki now. I don't even know what category to call them. They're like shopping complex. Are we? Yeah. Oh, what do you call them? Shopping complex? Okay. But we're not seeing enough of that. And then even when we see they're not positioned properly. So you can have a shopping complex. Abuja is full of shopping complexes, but they're not positioned in the right places. So you can rent a store there and not get any customers. The reason why we end up going to pay so much for Polo Park in Enugu or for ShopRite in Ibadan, it's simply because we expect a certain number of foot traffic, or Jabi Lake Mall, which has about 400,000 people coming into the mall every day. There are very few of those opportunities. And so when I'm talking about retail, that's what I mean. I mean, except we are going to open markets, which you know that guaranteed foot traffic. But the problem with open markets is that the stores are not, they're not presentable to the sort of brands, in the kind of brand that we have. And how do you ensure that they position your brand better? It's changing because many of them are now becoming more sophisticated and they are renovating their stores. So we're seeing a lot of changes in trade fair, for example, and we're seeing that evolution, but it's taking some time. And so for me, I think that we have to think about multiple channels for us to be able to get our products as far and wide. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. All right, do you have any more questions? Okay.
Good evening. I don't know if you have any solutions to... Hi, Chekwas. How are you? So, good evening, Mrs. Tara. Good evening. For a business, so I have a business. It's not leather, it's clothing. And we recently had an exhibition in Europe. And there's been a lot of demand for our products outside the country. In fact, when we set up our website, there was some sort of a glitch. We did not add on shipping to the UK, and then we had over 10 orders. So it was really tough because obviously to send out one is like 20,000. So we find out now that we have interest in neighboring countries, Ghana, Kenya, but shipping is always a problem. So, and then we've had people approach us. I mean, I've spoken to Chekwas before as well, in terms of stocking our products abroad, but most of the time, not with him, with other stockists and such, is very expensive to stock with them. So I don't know if there are any solutions as to, you're ready to scale, you have interest, there's demand, but in terms of scaling your business and how much it costs to scale the business is a problem, but there's demand and then product is ready. But in terms of distribution, there's a problem.
Yeah, definitely shipping outside, actually shipping within is a little expensive, but shipping outside, it's really expensive. And it only works if you buy in bulk. And the only challenge with retailers like us is if we have to put, I don't know, $2,000, maybe $3,000 to $5,000 on a brand, like we have to manage the inventory. How sure are we this is going to resonate? How sure are we can turn this around really quickly and release the cash instead of having inventory? If you're shipping one off, it's really expensive too. So when it comes to logistics, it's hard in that case, and it's expensive. And it's just risky as retailers to sort of buy into a brand and buy all that product. And also for the brand who's trying to serve 10 customers in New York, one customer in California, another in Sweden or anywhere. It's just hard and really expensive. And I can't figure out. If I figure it out, then I'm probably like really rich. But I'm trying to figure it out, yeah.
What we're trialing soon is because we found exactly that problem. It's holding inventory overseas is expensive, complicated, and shipping 111 is also expensive. So we're extending our order lead times. We'll still be able to rush it, send something in a hurry via DHL if somebody wants to pay a fortune for it. But what we want to do is consolidate orders over a 4 to 6 week period, put them all in a big box, and then get that shipment shipped to either the UK or the States, and then unbundled and then sent on. Now that doesn't deal with the whole kind of instant gratification thing. But what we've concluded is we've got a product that lasts a long time. We've got a product that's very valuable. We've got a product that's got a great story. And there should be enough people out there, because we're a small company, who are prepared to wait for our product. And that will allow us to ship at a much, much lower cost, because bulk air freight versus courier is a lot cheaper. And that's what we're trialing. And actually, one of the points that was made yesterday when I spoke was that actually perhaps brands could club together if you can kind of arrive at a sort of, and effectively kind of, you may not have enough to complete a bulk order, but you may be able to collaborate and fill up a big box, 5 orders here, 4 orders there, 6 orders here, and ship at a fraction of the price, but it does involve people being more patient.
And another thing we're trying to kind of solve solve the logistics issue is drop shipping. And it's worked. It hasn't really worked that well, and that's what we're trying to figure out. The little hack is if you charge customers in America, let's say $20 to $25 to ship directly, and you make it clear that it's being shipped from Nigeria or Kenya, they'll be okay to pay like $20, $25. But if you have an account with DHL or UPS, a Nigerian account with a Nigerian, you register your company here, then it's a little cheaper to ship from here in Naira than it is in dollars. So drop shipping, we've tried, has worked a little bit. We just haven't found the sweet spot yet. So that's another thing we're trying to do. Register our company here. We're shipping directly from here with DHL, which is slightly cheaper than if we use the US account to ship it because they charge us in dollars. So that's something we're trialing. I don't think we're we haven't really nailed it yet, but it's worked a bit. It hasn't worked a bit. So that's just another thing we're trying to figure out with logistics because it's just hard.
Because it's easier to ship from China.
Yes.
It's easier to ship from China to Ghana than it is to ship from Nigeria to Ghana. It's ridiculous. And so in our case, we just send directly to the distributors in those countries. Going from Lagos to Gabon is impossible because I just don't want to sound like a dooms. But that's a reality. You can't fly to Gabon from Nigeria, and Gabon is next to Cameroon. You have to go to Togo. Then from Togo to Ivory Coast to Gabon. And Ivory Coast is on this side. So how do you want to send the products? So it's easier because China is constantly sending things. They've found a way to, they're distributing large quantities. So shipments to those countries is faster than it is. It's how, for example, we order flowers from Netherlands that came from Nairobi. It's ridiculous. So our governments need to do more, and we need to hold our governments accountable. I was just speaking to someone just now who said she didn't vote. And I said, that's why we are here, because we don't vote, and we don't hold our governments accountable. We're focusing on abusing pastors instead of abusing the people that we should be abusing. So as young people, in the next 4 years, we have the opportunity not sit down and think that there's nothing we can do. We can do something, but we have to do something en masse, not one person, not 2 persons, all of us. And we cannot give the excuse that we can't, I couldn't vote because I traveled. No, this is now a life and death situation. It's a life and death situation that we find ourselves, and governments need to be held accountable. How is it that it's easier to send things from China to Africa than it is for me to move from here to Tanzania? It doesn't make any sense. But the governments are eating the money that they should be using to build infrastructure and building mansions, and we as young people are refusing to vote because we think we don't have any power. But the power is in our hands, and we need to sit up and change.
Just to illustrate, in my introduction, basically you were told that we had a shop in Tanzania. We closed it last year. We'd had it for 5 years. Tanzania is just down the road. It's an overnight drive from Nairobi. Down the road. Closed it. Too hard. Too hard. Is it because people didn't want to buy? No, we could find customers, and actually it was pretty much breaking even. We had a great location. There wasn't the political will. It was just the challenges we faced were symptomatic of all sorts of Kenyan businesses that were trying to move things across the border. We're supposed to be part of an East African community. We had all the certificates of origin, all the paperwork, and getting things across the border was an absolute nightmare. And sometimes people from places like the European Union come and interview me and say, how can we, what does the East African community do? It's just nothing. It's pointless. Don't talk to me about doing business in Tanzania. Love Tanzanians. If they want to come and buy from us, that's great, but I just will not engage with that border. It's a waste of everybody's time. It's a waste of my time. And as a small business, you can't afford to do it. So going forward, we're going to transact more with Europe and with the States than we will with the rest of Africa until government does its job, until the African Union does its job and breaks down the trade barriers and allows the free movement of goods so that everybody can benefit and everybody can prosper.
I sit on a board of a small So Fresh. How many of you know So Fresh? So they have these coconut flakes. They bring those coconut flakes from Togo. Or we have coconut in Benin, right? It's more expensive to bring coconut from Benin to Lagos than it is to bring from Cotonou to Lagos. You know why? Because the police guys will not let one truck move without collecting money 100 times. By the time it gets to Lagos, it's too expensive. Now government has shut the borders. It means that the prices are going to go up.
Okay. This conversation was real deep, but yes, very needful to have the conversation. I hope we can go beyond just talking about it as well, to also, take action, do, stuff that we need to in our different quarters. All right, I can take one last question, I think. But if we don't, it's a great place to round off, I think. It's a great place to round off. So yeah, on this note, I want to say thank you to, okay, one last question then. Oh, someone's got the mic at the back. Oh.
Yes, my name is Damien Lade. So what I want to ask is, what kind of agreements would you say a new business can get into with retailers to sell their products through these retailers? And then what option would you say is the best option for such a new business to explore in selling these things? Okay. And then secondly, do you have any suggestions for trusted retailers that a business can consider in using to sell their products?
Are you in the leather space?
Yes. Leather fashion products.
Well, I think the best relationship is you give them product, they give you money. That's the best kind, and they give you lots of it. But seriously, I think that a lot of retailers want to work on consignment. We're very, very cautious about that because people love to take your product, but then will they give you the reports on time? Will they tell you what they've sold? Will they tell you what they've sold it for? Are they going to inflate your retail price so that actually it slows down the rate of sale but improves their margin? Then they sit on your cash. They don't really care about your stock because they haven't invested in it. It gets damaged, and then it's always a nightmare. So it really doesn't matter what kind of agreement you have. Basically, you shouldn't be consigning the stock to anybody that you don't trust really, really, really well, because effectively you're giving them your product, your asset. You're giving them your money. And then finally, I think, and then there is a relationship between retail and brand, in the sense that if you're selling your product in a market where you're not known, or if you're a new brand, then when you're seen in the window of a shop, say, people who walk past that shop overlay what they associate with that shop onto your brand. So even if you've got a very expensive brand, if it's a cheap shop, then you immediately become a cheap brand. You have no choice, because the weight of the perception of that retail outlet outweighs your own brand or your product, because they don't know who you are. So as a young brand, actually at any time, you just need to be very, very careful from a brand standpoint about where you decide to be stocked, as well as as well as any sort of financial relationship.
All the big brands will take your products for 30, 60, 90 days. And many of the small businesses do not have that kind of capital to hold, right? So I would not advise you to go in that direction. Plus, it will take you a long time to actually allow for them to take your products, because if your brand is not yet well known, I know how long it took us to get into Health Plus, even though we were already a well-known brand at the time, but it took a long time to get in. And even at that, the payments agreements are they're not helpful to us as a company. So you have to think about, many of your brands are still too young to do that. I would say master your target audience, master your distribution that you have control over. Otherwise, you can ruin your business. If they take one consignment and they don't give you cash for it, you don't even have the manpower to manage that, to keep going back and asking them for your money. It's too much wahala. Right? So sell to the people that you can sell, be consistent in the quality of your product, and try and increase the people who are buying from you. But the minute you start thinking about who do you trust in terms of big distributors, we're not yet ready in Nigeria.
That's basically it. Like there's no need to add anything. That's basically it. And we try to work with brands so they don't go and get into the we don't even touch consignment because brands don't like consignment. We can say retailers like it, but we have to build. I prioritize relationship, and if it works for a brand, it should work for us as well. So that's it.
All right, that's all we can take for this conversation. We have to wrap up. I'm sorry, because we have another one coming up in about 45 minutes, and that's titled "The Designer and Their Brand: The Power of Storytelling." That's going to be amazing, and it's going to feature Shem Ezema.